classified on that?
It starts out, it's got that Schedule C on the front of it. So it actually says Chapter 4, but then if you flip 2 pages.
Oh, okay.
The way they did them this year is they put the review questions from the prior chapter at the front of the next chapter slides. So I noticed that when I printed those out, and I was like, oh, it says Chapter 4. But, so if you flip over, and they didn't bother putting Chapter 5 at the top. I don't know why. They just decided not to. I noticed that too. Yeah, I guess it was too much fun. Okay, so we went over interest. So common sources of taxable interest. This is more important, if clients are asking you different things. We do have data sheets where they can look through certain types of income to jar their memory. Something we may look at this year, I'll just float it by you guys and see what you think. You don't know a lot about the in-store stuff yet, but one of the other franchisees uses, it's called a daily, or it might be called something else, but they literally have everybody that walks in fill out a page on what they're here for. So are you here to file a new return? Are you here to get a copy of a return? Are you here to get an estimate? Are you here to ask a question? Because that way they know how to classify, what someone's coming in the door to do. Well, the same way that would happen, that's also on their data sheet, it shows different types of incomes. So that's where on the data sheet that they actually kind of stirs their memory to what income they're looking for or what they need. So if you got questions about other taxable interest, I have not seen some of these in our years as doing returns. Doesn't mean they're not out there. CDs, some people have CDs. I have interest on those. Deposits of accounts from credit unions, savings banks, loan associations, dividends can actually have interest on those same pages. Treasury bills, savings bonds, installment sale payments, life insurance proceeds remaining with the company, tax refunds, or gifts for opening accounts. And I think one year I had an interest on one of my tax refunds, and I don't know if I claimed it or not, but tax refunds is where the IRS has made an adjustment, or maybe someone's filed an amendment, and the IRS will pay you interest because they get more of your money. They really do that. It is a thing. U.S. savings bonds are taxable on federal only. They are exempt from state and local taxes. Like I said, I don't know if there's a lot of these out there and we've just not had clients talking about them, or if we just don't have a lot of them here locally that have come into our doors. But they are not taxed on state and local. They are taxed on federal. These are just the 3 different types of bonds. I don't know that much about savings bonds. I just know that's the 3 types of bonds. So if you want to jot that down, you can. I don't know that it'll come up on the exam. Over the years, I haven't seen much about savings bonds, except the fact that they are taxed on federal and not on state. Okay? Cash method of accounting, as most taxpayers do, you will report the interest on those in the year that they receive it. Okay? You report it at the maturity of the bond or when you cash it. Or method 2, you report the increase in redemption value as interest each year. I would say we've probably just not had as many clients that have had a bond. That's not something, a lot of people will go out and purchase or do, but I'm sure we've got a handful out there. Let's see. There's an exception for higher education expenses incurred the same year the bonds are redeemed. If savings bonds are inherited, they will need to know whether the descendant or the estate claimed any of the interest as income. If not, or if the information is not available, they will be responsible for claiming all the accumulated interest as income. So the main thing you want to know there is when it comes to savings bonds, you kind of want to know if they've redeemed it or not, and if it's been inherited, what has happened with the estate. And that goes for anything. When you have a descendant or an estate, if someone's passed away, there's a lot of questions that go into that. Okay? And yes, if someone dies or passes away, usually the next of kin is responsible for filing that last return. So, if anything were to ever come up with that, if you weren't sure, you could ask us. But just a quick note on bonds there. Certificates of deposit. Taxpayer pays CD with maturity of more than 1 year. They must include part of the interest. Early withdrawal penalty is for withdrawing money from the CDs. Early withdrawal penalty is reported in box 2, okay, of that form 1099. So the main thing you need to know is certificate of deposit is probably going to have interest, okay? and that would be in box 2 of that 1099 INT. Okay, so these are just different types of interest that they're telling us about. Definitely all of that is readily available on Google, I am sure. Okay, some types of interest are exempt from federal taxes. Tax exempt interest is shown on 1099 INT box 8. Okay, so it would, if they bring it in on the INT, it's going to tell you what it is. So you shouldn't even have to ask them most of the time on a lot of these forms. If it's laid out nicely for you, you may not even have to ask them. You don't have to know. As long as you've got the form and you're able to answer the questions, there's no problem there, okay? There are lots of things they'll bring in sometimes, and I'm like, gosh, I've never seen that form before. Form of income or whatever it may be, and so we learn something new every day, Now, if it's something where historically our software has been set up where if it's a form, say it's the INT, but there's additional questions that are needing to be answered, usually our old software would highlight it, okay? So the old version was a red box. It was our old red box. We'd say, oh, we got to make the red go away. We don't want red. Red is bad. And so if there was red boxes, we had to find out that information if it was not on the form. So what does that mean? If something in the system says, hey, you've got to ask this, you've got to find this out to finish, and it's not on the form, well, what do? Well, we have to ask the client because we sure don't know. I had someone call the other day asking about a health savings account, and I said, oh, yeah, I know you can get certain deductions, you can get this, you can get that. And she was asking me about one of the type of, what was it, honey? It was a PPO versus an HMO versus something else. I said, ma'am.
HSA.
No, it was the HSA, but she was asking about the different types of medical facilities you could use, the different type of plans. I said, ma'am, that's not our wheelhouse. I said, I legally can't help you with that because we don't do we don't do health insurance. I said, all I can tell you is the HSA tax side of it. That HSA company or organization is going to issue you that form, and you bring it in to us, we put it in. I said, I know it's going to be tax deferred or tax exempt what you put in there. Then if you don't use it, you might be taxed on it or have to roll it over or whatever. But I can't tell you what health services you can use it with because that's not tax related.
Some cases you lose it.
Yeah, and I think she kind of understood because she literally thought I was going to know about a PPO plan and a this plan and a that. I was like, yeah, that has nothing to do with your taxes. And so that's the thing. People don't know. They think we might know it. Sometimes I do randomly know that information. But we do have to be careful if we're giving advice about things that we're not legally supposed to. Okay? Our advice pretty much ends with, this is the form it's on. I can give you information off the IRS website. This is a W-4. I can tell you what I know about a W-4. I cannot fill it out or sign it for you. That sort of thing. But yeah, I don't even know if the IRS website's not going to be able to tell her what PPO plan to select for her Anyway, but that's just an example. We get all kinds of calls. People will come in.